Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Background Information. Excuse me. Today we're talking about angels and demons, and we are talking about a demon called either Belial or Belial. I don't know which one is right, so please tell me in the comments if you know which one's right. Anyway, as always, we're going to be starting with a quote from one of the stories they're mentioned in, and then we're going to talk about the background information I have on this demon, and then I'm going to give you a profile for the character in my universe, so let's get into it. To be fair, Mum, you've got to admit that Master Lucifer must appreciate you somewhat to have chosen you and Nurgle to birth us enforcers. Either that or they just really wanted to watch you suffer giving birth to 7 offspring and then having to raise us over and over again whenever we accidentally get killed and revert back to infants. Actually, given the boss is sadistic, it might be the latter, even if you are the most loyal. A quote from Hellbound. To start with, I'll just make a note about my inspiration for how I view Belial. Now, you've all guessed by now that Paradise Lost is a big inspiration for me, but within it, the one close to Satan is Beelzebub, and he is the one that discusses and marvels with Satan over his ideas. Within Paradise Lost, Lucifer is a separate being to Satan. In my Veil universe, the devil and Satan, as they are known, are Lucifer, though the name Satan comes from a separate being. Where Beelzebub is the one in the poem to be at Satan's side, in my universe that is Belial. Scheming, lazy Belial, and so he's quite important in my Veil universe. But let's explain him first, and then I'll quote Paradise Lost at you later in this. Okay, Belial is in fact actually a term used in the Bible. You'll hear it as the sons of Belial, that has often become thought of as a personification of the devil. Throughout occultism, Belial has become a separate entity, a named demon and a prince of hell. His name varies in pronunciation and spelling, with variants such as Belial and Belhor. There's speculation to the origin of the name, or at least the word, with me looking towards the Hebrew word used in reference to something worthless or wicked, which is a good way to consider this being. Within the Bible, the term sons of Belial recurs and is generally used to point out people involved in idolatry or deemed worthless for their actions. It pops up for various things, including the wicked sons of Eli and Jezebel's conspirators against Naboth, and generally for characters that stir up trouble and dissension, lawless people, people with no true sense of respect. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, where the majority of demon names and lore are initially drawn from, Belial is described as the leader of the Sons of Darkness. In the War of the Sons of Light against the Sons of Darkness, amongst these scrolls, Belial is described as working for God with a certain number of demons on his side, created to cause mischief and to bring forth evil, but like some characters, like the Satans and indeed like Samael, Belial is described as a necessary and an angel. The lovely quote from this that covers a lot of Belial goes as follows. You made Belial for the pit, angel of enmity. In darkness is his domain, his counsel to bring about wickedness and guilt. It reminds me very much of the Satans, which are accusatory angels sent to test mankind's faith. Throughout the scrolls, he's got a few mentions, often linking him as sitting opposite God and having a purpose that many question God over and yet have to accept. There is even reference to him as the Angel of Darkness, and in later parts he's described as a King of Evil, a Prince of Darkness, terms we throw more towards Lucifer in popular understanding. But curiously, there's a description of Belial holding onto 3 nets that bring forth fornication, wealth, and pollution of sanctuary. There are links to some with sorcery and necromancer, and that he encouraged the priests in Egypt. The sons of Belial statements through Jewish texts can also appear in curious forms, with jubilees stating that uncircumcised men are sons of Belial. There are references in the Testament to the 12 patriarchs regarding Belial as the opposing figure to God, and once more links made towards himself and fornication. The Ascension of Isaiah, Belial is referred to as the Angel of Lawlessness, identifying him as Samael and Satan, and also naming him Matan Bucus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. In the New Testament, his mentions are in the same manner of the sons of Belial and the lawless people, the problematic people that are used generally to identify anyone that doesn't quite conform to the kind of ideals of their own. In the apocryphal text of Bartholomew, Belial is counted as one of the 666 fallen angels visible to Christ, as he requests from Archangel Michael to show his disciples hell. But in general, through Christian texts you can see he is once more this reference phrase and linked to the opposition of the Christian order. Through occultism, Belial appears not only in the Lesser Keys of Solomon, but is even referenced in Aleister Crowley's Goetia, not to mention the Satanic Bible, where he is the unmastered being, lawless, although in the Satanic Bible this means his use is in reference to independence and self-sufficiency. Belial's name appears in variant occult texts, sometimes under the spelling of Belial, and generally his link to lawlessness comes forward. In understanding his reference as being opposite to law and justice, one can understand why I tend to place him into the role of antithesis to Michael. Now we return to me reading from Paradise Lost about him, and one of my main inspirations to Belial that I rather enjoy is from Book 2, though in Book 1 he's introduced in a manner that rather compiles what we've discussed about the Sons of Belial reference quite well. So here's the piece from Book 2. On the other side uprose Belial in act more graceful and humane. A fairer person lost not heaven he seemed, for dignity composed and high exploit, but all was false and hollow, for though his tongue dropped manna and could make the worse appear, the better reason to perplex and dash, maturest counsels for his thoughts were low, to vice industrious, but to nobler deeds, timorous and slothful, yet he pleased the ear. Now, most of Belial I have discussed previously with his contracts video, which I will link to, but I will be a little lazy and copy and paste that information into the history for you. So I hope you will find it interesting. Here's the Demon of Procrastination's profile for you. Name Belial, position fallen angel, story featuring various mentions, particularly within the Hells Enforcer series. Role fallen angel of lawlessness, keeper of deals with the devil. Gender male. Description seen most often as a reasonably handsome and strong man. He has a deep, grating voice with a tone that's generally quite nonchalant, with a manner that always seems to ask questions or suggest, sometimes becoming quite sultry if he wants to encourage an idea. He appears always as human to humans, like anyone in the crowd, really, but for his rather strange grey eyes that show the rather dead manner of all his doings. As an angel, he always appeared rather uncouth and a little rough around the edges, his wings grey and mottled with gold, but ruffled and untidy. He has a form that matches more of what might be described as a hunching, creeping figure that is always bowing to Lucifer and shunning the light. Realm Hell. Ability is the ability to see into a being's soul and understand the sins they pay the less attention to and make them sin even more. He can make deals with people with the full authority of hell and collect souls from that. He has the ability to make people question any form of faith they have and to doubt themselves most of all, and he can lead people to consider their darkest desires and act upon them regardless of the consequences. Master Lucifer. Personality, lazy, miserable, and generally someone that brings the mood down for everyone. Belial generally is no one that feels they should be bothered to care about anything, but always feels lumbered with duty when he much rather prefers to laze around. He has no faith or belief in anything but Lucifer's plan, and hates the idea that he has roles to fulfill, even when he can generally do as he pleases. Lucifer is the only being that excites him or makes him want to do something, because regardless he loves Lucifer. So when he's doing the job for Lucifer, he becomes enthusiastic and devastatingly good at it. Relations. Satanel. Envious of the being that is Lucifer's cloud brother and holds a close bond to him. Belial likes to shift a lot of the misdeeds and actions of Lucifer onto Satanel, and encourage the idea of the devil and Satan, so that few speak badly of Lucifer necessarily. Satanel accepts this, but does not like Belial. Michael, aside from the Almighty for casting him out, Michael is the one being in the entirety of existence that Belial hates bitterly, and wishes only the worst for. Hence he can revel in the deals that guardian angels cannot break or become entangled with. His hatred stems from the very point of existence, and it's something all the other demons know about and tease about. Nurgle, his rival in being Lucifer's top lackey, Belial finds himself having to groan and try to be at least as productive and hard-working as Nurgle is for Lucifer, if only because he cannot stand someone coming closer to Lucifer than himself. Beelzebub. Belial likes to think that he is on equal intelligence and respect within Lucifer's eyes as Beelzebub is, but often he finds the Lord of the Flies is the one held in the highest regard and like a true adviser, and Belial can't stand that someone else's opinion is held more. Uriel, his sort of cloud brother, both were made from the fire of the light, but Belial's fire was that of the deep glow of magma, hidden beneath the ground, and his attachment to the darkness meant that his two cloud brothers of light held no interest in him, and he held no interest in them. Lucifer, Belial's most favourite thing in existence, and the only thing he desires and yearns for to the point that he hates it but loves it too. His simping nature around Lucifer is actually regarded with disgust by his master, but Belial will do anything for Lucifer and guards them rather jealously. The enforcers, half his spawn and half Nurgle's, being requested to be birthed by him by Lucifer. Belial is actually reasonably motherly towards them all. Not quite sure which are his and which are Nurgle's, but always giving them each attention to make Nurgle appear less the parent in control. They are as much his subordinates as his children, and though he feels the resignation of many parents towards dealing with their problematic offspring, he does oddly love them, inasmuch as he can love anything that isn't Lucifer. History. Born from the light, but the light of the fires below the ground, Belial's head was always facing down, their shoulders humped, and their overall form miserable and unwanted. They were lowly and unlike any other angel in that none could endure their lack of interest, and yet could see from their duty to urge lava to bubble up and cool quick, fresh ground could be created. They took no pride in their work, and very early on, almost from the point they were formed, Belial's eyes were only drawn to the brightest light in heaven, Lucifer. They would often follow around after them, hiding in the shadows, stalking them, and obsessing over everything they did and every relationship they had. Belial was able to get into Lucifer's sphere through their compliments, bringing pride to Lucifer that was not initially as profound as it would later become. But more importantly, Belial wished to steer Lucifer from Michael and was very much a yes man, so that with Belial no one questioned Lucifer's thoughts and feelings. When Lucifer rebelled and stormed off to walk amongst the world and accidentally awakened Death, Belial had become friendly with Beelzebub thanks to their fondness of Lucifer, and together they worked well to guide other angels to Lucifer's thoughts. Here it was shown that Belial could not only tell which angel dared to have similar thoughts and could be twisted, but his curious ability to shine and speak of those deep desires with great promises came through, and he drew in the greatest number to follow Lucifer. When Lucifer gave them the idea of gender, Belial was the one to immediately bring up fornication and the pleasure of the flesh endured, setting followers into an orgy and attempting to offer himself to Lucifer, only to be ignored and find themselves finding others, and yet feeling resentful that it did not bring them the immediate satisfaction he wished from his master. During the battle, Belial was not the greatest fighter, despite the fact he was very strong thanks to absorbing the doubts and dark thoughts of others. He did not need to fight so much as to speak, and then he was startled when he was defeated rather surprisingly by Raphael, using his abilities with cleansing water to flood Belial's mouth and silence him. When Lucifer was then beaten and had their wings removed, Belial ripped off his own wings and then leapt after Lucifer, one of the few not to be thrown but to actually follow Lucifer down. Upon landing in hell, he encouraged the ideas of revenge and the cruelty and disinformation that they could inflict to the beings that the Almighty had created, and Beelzebub agreed with him on all these points. In time, Belial would be given the important duty of maintaining contracts to give man their deepest desires, but in exchange for their souls. He had to make the contracts quite strict, and in the end, his own laziness in keeping to the contracts at times meant they were being abused. He did not care until the Almighty put a deal in front of Lucifer about it, and of course, Belial had to be obedient and deal with it, and created the enforcers with Nurgle. And that was not a pleasant experience, but one done only to please Lucifer. Final comments. Belial's contract information has a lot more information with Belial, and while I enjoy the few times I write him because he's such an irritating figure, that when everyone turns on him as they always do, it can be rather amusing. Anyway, thank you. Bye.